Hello, and we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
Today we're talking about a topic that Vince came up with. Vince, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about titles. What makes a good title? How does that title work in the eyes of the public?
And this is kind of Titles Revisited, because Manos and I did a podcast on titles several years ago, more from the perspective of, as a writer, how do you come up with a title? We talked about things like, is the title the first thing you think of, or do you put your title in after you've written a thing, and titles being a part of the craft, and that kind of thing. Today, Vince and I, and we may touch on some of that, but for the most part, Vince and I wanted to tackle this more from the consumer's perspective, and also from a marketing perspective, looking at titles of movies and TV shows and kind of more pop culture, mainstream media than like literary fiction and that kind of thing. So anyway, Vince, the first place I wanted to go to was like buzzwords in titles. And when I say buzzwords, I mean like the kind of like frequent adjectives that keep popping up in a lot of like action movies and horror movies or superhero things or whatever it is, that kind of seem to be there because for some reason those like kind of exciting words are supposed to be what get people to go to the theater. But I keep thinking it's kind of absurd because we keep seeing the same ones. You know what I mean? Like we can't get away from the words dark or rise.
That seems like a trend started by one property, really.
No, but we had a lot of that before Dark Knight Rises, and even Dark Knight, right? Like there's.
I haven't noticed rises before that. I have noticed dark.
Not rises. The word rise. You got Rise of the Planet of the Apes. You got Rise of the what was that? What was Guardian? Rise of the Guardians. There's a lot of things rising and a lot of things being dark.
You know what I think it is that
Star Trek Into Darkness just cracked me the heck up, especially because it had a.
Should have to do with Into Darkness.
Because it had a poster. Well, I mean, because it was like the darkest side of the Federation. It was like, what if the Federation were to go for like this really cynical kind of like obsessive anti-terror thing and became completely militarized? I know what they were doing with that, but what was really funny about it was they call it Star Trek Into Darkness, and everybody was complaining that the movie poster that they did looked too much like the Dark Knight Rises poster, and Dark Knight Rises was like the year before that, so it's really funny.
I think that, you know, there's, especially with comic books, I mean, I realize we're kind of talking specifically about movies,
sure.
But there is a definite trend that they think that making it darker makes it more serious, which, I mean, sure, I guess. Making it more adult makes it more sophisticated, which, I mean, we've talked about that before. And
we're starting to get away from that incrementally, I think, or at least creating some variety where it doesn't have to be that way. I just tacked that in because I don't want this to be an outdated conversation. When you start throwing out things like Guardians of the Galaxy in the movie theater, and then you look at what Marvel Now was, when you look at what Marvel Now has been versus what like Dark Reign was a couple years before that and stuff like that. Now we're getting past some of that. Right. Obviously DC didn't get the memo, but whatever.
So I do think that there is an appeal to people who consume media. The word dark has some kind of appeal to it. Just the existence of the word dark. So if you look at something that says the word dark in it, you're likely to go, you know, well, I'll at least watch the trailer. If you watch a trailer and it's kind of dark in you know, visually it's kind of dark, or even just thematically it's kind of dark, people tend to gravitate towards these things because I think that people like the idea that something that used to be innocent has been warped in some way, and therefore we see the term dark coming up in everything, even if it's not fitting.
Yeah, and what's silly about that, of course, is that it's already been played out.
Yeah.
You know, we've done the take an innocent thing. You know, there's that Power Rangers fan film that came out this week.
Yep.
And it's like we've got to do that to every. Now I realize that that's not a licensed thing, but like it's like professionals making it. Katie Sackhoff is in that.
James Vanderbeek is in that.
It's like we've got to do that to every property, and even if the people that own the license aren't doing it, we crave that stuff so much. We've got to do. But like. Does everybody crave that the way that maybe they used to? Like, is that not kind of played out? Are we not to a point where folks, or maybe this is just me, are we not to a point where folks are more kind of wanting to see just straight up some new things that they've never seen before, regardless of whether or not it's like wholesome or you know, a darker, edgier thing or whatever? Like is seeing the thing that you know already and is like iconic turned on its head? Is that played out? I realize it's kind of a different topic, but I think it's related to the title thing.
I'm not sure I could say that it's played out, turning something on its head, but I think part of the deal is, because I mean that's like the essence of comedy. It just doesn't have to be dark. But you look at something like Guardians of the Galaxy, things that are kind of funny at its core, things that are solely about being entertaining. And I think there was a period of time that we're starting to get past, as Kat mentioned earlier, that there was a period of time where we were stuck on the idea that making it a theater of attractions, making it shocking in some way, is what makes it entertaining. Well, I mean, just because there's a car wreck and you can't look away doesn't mean that you get some kind of joy out of seeing what's going on. It's more of satisfying a curiosity, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I like the idea that you can have your train wreck and you can have your escapism.
Well, and a lot of that's just about finally remembering stuff that has always worked over history, where we don't have to like keep reinventing the wheel every time. Where you want to be fresh and new, but a lot of, but like you don't want to like create brand new. Formulas, right? Where it's like, okay, this is the new thing we're gonna do over and over again forever. We're like Guardians worked because not because it's like a kind of comedy and a kind of space opera and stuff that we just hadn't had in a long time when we missed it. That's a little bit of it, but I think more of it was just, oh yeah, you like. Going to the theater should sometimes be about just having a good time, you know. Like
it shouldn't be emotionally draining.
Yeah, draining. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, let's get back to the title thing. When you see titles that have those kind of buzzwords in it, or where it's clearly a marketing ploy to try to get people to go to a thing, does that ever like turn you off or make you worried about the caliber of the project itself?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, kind of depending on the property, I'll take a look at it regardless of what the title is. You know what? I saw the first Star Trek, 2009 Star Trek. I didn't finish watching the first Star Trek movie, but it was long.
Nah, he pressed play and he walked away, and it's been going ever since, and it hasn't.
I got motion sick, so I stopped watching. But like, you know, I
made the mistake of renting the special longer version. Actually had a lot of late fees, but luckily that place has closed down since then, so it's not really a big deal.
It's on VHS.
Yeah.
But the idea...
That Blockbuster hasn't been in business in 10 years.
Fair enough. So...
You want me to go get that remote again?
The idea of those buzzwords doesn't turn me off. The thing that turns me off from a movie is something that is just like one word, or something that is not descriptive, like
fighting.
Like fighting. Now Ebert, I think it was Ebert, said that it wasn't that bad. Now whatever, sure, maybe critics liked it, maybe fans liked it, but I saw the word fighting and I thought, well, I know that movie's probably going to be about punching people.
Yeah.
And I don't care. Now, what's his name? Patton Oswalt once said that a movie's title should give you a mini movie in your head. And he said his favorite movie title...
Just conjure an image, right?
Yes. And his favorite title was The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? You have a bunch of stuff in there that just gives you images. I mean, you have a location, you have
yeah, that's great.
You have a noun of some kind, and then you have something that's about, you know, about action.
Well, I think that middle word, if we want to just dissect that title for a second, I think that what that middle word does is make it more specific and make it feel more unique.
Yeah.
So you like you said, you have a location. It's interesting how often those kinds of titles will kind of get you excited just because you're like, okay, I like, you know, something about it, like, okay, it's going to be like set in the South, and it's you know, and you just imagine certain things about it. But then it could have been just called the Texas Massacre. But putting the word chainsaw in there conjures such a vivid image.
That, I think,
and I think also,
is a great point.
And I think also it helps you to get a sense of who it's intended for, because you put the word chainsaw in there and you expect violence. Like, even just the word massacre, like, okay, the word massacre, like, it sounds horrible, right? But like, it could just be about you know, say a school shooting or something, and then the aftermath of it. You put the word chainsaw in there, you know this is a horror film. You know you're going to see the massacre itself.
I think to some extent horror movies are a great example here. Like
yeah.
Like, for example, Nightmare on Elm Street. So, again, you have a setting.
Location, yeah.
And you know that Elm Street, just calling it Elm Street is kind of hitting you at home. You know, your grandparents can live on Elm Street. And then Nightmare, you know, it's probably going to be something that's kind of scary. You know, nightmares are scary. Therefore, you're at least going to go watch the trailer.
And when you get into the theater, you're not going to be as surprised by the supernatural component.
Yeah.
As if it was just called, like, you know, Attack on Elm Street or something like that.
Bad guys do stuff on Elm Street.
Because you put the word nightmare in there, and it's immediately a double entendre. So once you actually get into it, and you know what the premise is, so you're not as taken aback by, oh, I'm watching this weird horror film that's about people getting killed in their minds.
Now, vague titles are a thing that drives me nuts.
Yeah, okay.
Stuff that's less about buzzwords and things that... now, I'll say this, and then I'll jump immediately into a different one that's actually a complaint. Like, something that's kind of a vague title that hits home for me somewhere, like Friday the 13th, something that says, you have some connection to this. Everybody has this idea that Friday the 13th is an unlucky day.
Yeah,
so, you know
it's about
what?
Superstition. You
have something that you can attack, or, you know, you can relate to, you can find interest in. Well, what's Friday the 13th about?
Even Halloween. Mostly because it's like it hadn't been done yet, so you're like, well, yeah, you want a horror franchise called Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's when it happens, and it's a guy in a mask and a Halloween costume, and yeah.
But then again, you have movies that are vague titled, like we said, Fighting earlier, like something that was not a bad movie that should have been able to draw people if you'd used its actual title, John Carter.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. Why not call it The Princess of Mars, or John Carter of Mars, or Warlord of Mars, or something?
Yeah, and we've complained about this a lot, so let me use that, so to not get too into that, let me ask you this question about those kinds of titles. When is it okay, then, to have a title that is just a person's name?
I feel like that name has
to
be super recognizable.
I like John Wick as a title, for instance. Part of the reason I thought John Wick worked so well as a title is because, and I don't know that anybody else thought of this, but and maybe I just read way too much into titles. I get complaints sometimes from people who are like, you are way too much of a title guy. But I'm watching that movie, and I get halfway into it, and I go, John Wick has a short fuse.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I can see that. John Wick.
Candlewick. I thought that, I thought that was really cool. So that immediately, when I thought of that, made it a more memorable title for me.
I think if you're going to make it a person's name, either the name has to be recognizable or the name has to be interesting in some way. You don't meet people named Wick. You do meet people named Carter.
Carter, yeah.
And you meet people with the first name or last name of Carter.
Yeah,
so
that was
John's
the president.
Just an unlucky dude.
Well, and again, we've talked about this, but that whole thing was a marketing thing in the wrong direction, where it was just this giant mistake, where they said, "Oh, women won't go see something that has the word Mars in it," and so that's why they did that. And if they had put the word Mars in the title. And you can still call it John Carter of Mars. Yeah. You know, and you can still have the guy's name in it. I don't think you're saying that names are bad to put in titles.
Because then, you have a reasonably ordinary dude in an extraordinary situation.
Yeah.
As opposed to, this is a movie about an ordinary guy. If you just saw the word John Carter on the page, you would say, well, that could be about anything. About anybody named anything doing anything. Well, anybody named one thing doing anything. So, but then you get to... pretty much any other movie. Well, here's the deal, though. There are great movies, like, I wouldn't necessarily be inspired to go see a movie named Alien, but I liked it a lot.
Yeah, sure.
So, and then you get to the sequel, Aliens. Now, I think Aliens works if people saw Alien.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe it has something to do with the time period, like, what the heck is Jaws about?
I think some titles don't sound especially descriptive, but it's like either just a really visceral sort of word where it immediately conjures an image. I think The Terminator is a great title.
Yeah.
And again, it does, The Punisher, like it tells you it's a person that kills things.
Yeah, a person that does a thing. That's a title right there. Person does a thing someplace.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so okay, so let me ask you this question. This is a stupid example. I didn't see this movie. I'm not into these kind of comedies. But, would people have gone to see Paul Blart Mall Cop if it was just called Mall Cop?
That's a good question. Did people go see Paul Blart?
got a sequel. I don't know.
It's insane.
Ace Ventura Pet Detective. Would people have gone to see that movie if it was just called Pet Detective? Why do they have the person's name in those titles? Is it because it's with Ace Ventura? I think it was kind of the detective agency thing where it's like that's what's on his card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like a lot of noirs from the 40s and stuff kind of had titles similar to that.
You know, I kind of wonder if
or at
maybe,
least a lot of short stories did. I don't know that movies did, but there are a lot of stories and books that are kind of like that.
Maybe the idea is that you take this title, you give the name, and you give the title of the person, whatever you call it, doctor, lawyer, that kind of title, and essentially by doing that, you're evoking images of a person who is taking his job more seriously than what the rest of the country does. So, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Here's a
Especially
guy
if it's a comedy, yeah.
You know what he does. You know what the movie's going to be about because he's trying to find something to do with some animal. And then the thing about it is that maybe it's that these are evoking images of like Dirty Harry, and you know that these guys are trying something that's probably more important than they are. Like Paul Blart Mall Cop. Blart's an odd name. So, you know what? Maybe I'll check it out. Mall Cop. You know what? I would have been more likely to check out Paul Blart Mall Cop than something called Observe and Report. So,
well, let me ask you this question: What about a one name word title like Ted? Like, you had to see the previews before you had any idea what the heck that was, right?
Mm-hmm. Which, to some extent, people that make these movies can make a title, and it doesn't matter what the title is, because people are going to go see it because of the creator's name. So
well, that's a good point, but titles clearly matter a lot, too, because, when we talk about this a lot, so many remakes are just based on title bait. I mean, so much of the time something will get greenlit just because people have heard of it, and so we use the same title. It's always interesting to me when something gets remade that I don't feel like really needed a remake, and then they change the title also, which doesn't happen as often anymore. But every now and again that kind of thing would happen, like Freaky Friday.
Yeah,
was a remake of another movie from the 50s that was about the same thing, and I think it was a straight up remake, but it wasn't called Freaky Friday. And I'm trying to remember what that was called now. It'll come to me here in a little bit. I just don't remember it right now.
Heck, I thought it was Freaky Friday.
No, it wasn't. If memory serves, I could be wrong on that. But I think that was called something else. But maybe the deal with that was it was a similar premise, but wasn't exactly a straight up remake. I thought it was. But anyway, that will happen sometimes.
Yeah, or something like the Parent Trap, which I think is actually a pretty decent title.
Yeah. Oh no, that's what it was. Was it Freaky Friday? A remake of the Parent Trap?
I think the Parent Trap. They did a remake with the same people that did Freaky Friday.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh. Was that not the exact same premise, though?
No,
it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
Because Parent Trap was about
Parent
the twins.
Yeah, that's right. And then
Freaky Friday was about them switching
What did they do, Parent Trap again with the Olsen twins or something?
Is
that what it was, or was it
with
somebody else?
The girl who is now ridiculously skinny... Horror. Lindsay Lohan.
It's been 20 years, guys. I don't remember.
Who knows what these things are made out of?
I thought the Parent Trap remake they used actual twins, and it was weird because the original Parent Trap they used one person, and that's why it was so cool back then. Was that it was one person on a
I'm pretty sure that it was
with a composite effect. Okay, well I don't remember. Obviously, I'm talking straight out of my face right now.
This is a Google search for later.
Yes, it is. Absolutely, it is. We can do it right now, but we're not going to because we're going to move on. Titles like Ted.
Yeah, I think Ted works when you know what it's about, because you look at what the preview is, you see this is about a teddy bear, and then you go Ted. Well, this is obviously an adult thing about a teddy bear.
Well, because you made the point that if people are excited about the advertising and stuff, it doesn't matter what the thing is called. I would give the slight rebuttal. I think you're right, depending on what it is. I would give the slight rebuttal that that memorable titles help you to remember to go to a thing, potentially. But at the same time, you're making that point while at the same time you're saying that the only reason people didn't see John Carter was because it had a weird title. It was because it had a really generic title. But if people saw the trailer for that, why didn't they go? I will say that I don't think they advertised that hard enough. I didn't see a lot on it when it came out, so there's that. I don't think Disney really believed in it.
I think part of it is you look at something like John Carter and you say, well, this is a movie about a guy's name. And then you see a preview, and then you don't necessarily connect those two things in your head because you see that guy and you don't think John Carter.
It's also guy on Mars. Important to remember that when you go to the movie theater, this is different from when you just see trailers on YouTube, but when you go to the movie theater, and I think this is still how most people see their trailers, you see like 12 trailers in a row now.
Yeah.
And so,
if it doesn't stand out, how do you remember it?
How often have you seen a trailer for a thing and you knew you saw the trailer but you couldn't remember exactly what it was because it had a generic enough title that when you heard, okay, that movie, when you're like looking at a list of movies to go see, you see that title and you go, I can't remember which one that is. And then if you actually go see it or you look it up or something, you go, oh yeah, that's the one about space. Okay. Like I didn't even remember that Jupiter Ascending was about anybody going to Jupiter. I didn't remember that. And I had seen that trailer. Later on, I realized I actually had seen that trailer. Brandon and I went and saw that movie. Worst thing I've seen this year so far this year.
Go see 50 Shades of Grey.
And that's including Hot Tub Time Machine too. We went and saw Jupiter Ascending.
That's awesome.
And I walked out of the theater and was like, okay, I think I did see a trailer for this, but I didn't remember it at all. But part of that's because, you know, the whole thing was really kind of visually generic anyway. But anyway,
now you see something like Ted, and then there's a novelty of teddy bear, something that we've all grown up with, being named Ted.
What?
So, if it was a movie about a guy named Ted... I feel
prouder
Ted,
about John Wick now.
If you see a movie about a guy named Ted, then you don't keep it in your head. But if you see a movie about a teddy bear named Ted, you keep it in your head. Because there is the novelty of it. And I'm not saying that it's...
Dr. Seuss right now. Everything you're saying is rhyming.
I'm not saying that it's clever. I'm saying that there's a novelty to it. So,
you know, Vince is lecturing about TED right now, and I just feel like I'm in the middle of a TED talk.
Oh, I really like TED Talk.
I've been waiting for days to make that joke somewhere. Anyway, so I don't know, where else should we go for that? Okay, convoluted titles. Titles that are super long and trying to just get like everything about the thing in to get people to go see it, so that trying to spread out to every demographic they're reaching for. And I have complained about this before. I've got a lot of flack for complaining about this title, but I still don't like the Batman vs. Superman title. I think it's silly. Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. There's too much going on there. It's like, because we've got to make a big deal out of we're setting up Justice League instead of just making a Justice League movie first. Do they really think they're going to make any more money putting the word justice in the title? You know what I mean? Like why isn't it just called Batman versus or even Batman v Superman? I guess it's fine. I guess we'll see what the movie's like. But
I wonder if this is like not branding, just so that the idea, like maybe the general public doesn't know what Justice is, Justice League. Maybe
I think they do.
Maybe the general public knows what the Super Friends are, but not the Justice League, based on things that have come out before.
I don't agree with you.
I'm just spitballing.
Not in this day and age. In the 1980s, sure. And now, I don't know.
I mean, they had a very successful cartoon show.
There's that, and also I would make the case that there's been so much buzz about the potential for the DC opposite of Avengers.
Okay,
you see what I'm saying?
That's fair.
I think more people hear the Justice League after Avengers. Also, Justice League is older than Avengers.
That's true.
Okay, not by a lot, but I'm just saying that, like, you know, that was always the big. I would make the argument that before the Avengers movie, more people would have known what the Justice League was than the comic book Avengers.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. But I feel like that's the reason they put it in there. I'm not saying that it's a good reason, but I really feel like they're trying to brand.
I just feel like there's a lot, yeah, and that's what annoys me about it. I just feel like there's too many politics in that title, and maybe the problem is just that I'm too close to it and I keep up with this stuff, and so, like, I can see the politics, and probably a lot of people that go to see the movie don't, so it doesn't. I also don't like things that sound like direct-to-video movies. When you like X-Men Origins Wolverine, I was like, that sounds like a direct-to-video DVD, right? And I felt the same way in the first place about Captain America: First Avenger, and then was more okay with it when I saw the movie because he kind of is the first Avenger, and at least the title has something to do with the movie. And obviously this will too, because they are setting up the Justice League, but then also we're all just, a lot of us are just kind of worried about how convoluted all that's going to be when you're introducing Batman in this movie, but then you're also giving us Aquaman, and you're giving us Wonder Woman, and, you know, all of this stuff. But the other thing,
so why is it Batman versus Superman and not just Dawn of Justice League?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying, it's kind of too political, because they got to get the word Batman in there to get people to go to the theater, and they put Batman first, you know,
Yeah.
Just because
Could be bat heavy.
just because Batman's what's going to sell that movie. They don't believe in their Superman because a lot of people hated that movie. You know,
Why not just call it Batman versus Superman? Because there is no other Batman versus Superman live action film.
yeah, exactly.
People, and I don't think there's a Batman
You're
versus
right.
Superman animated film. Why? Like, I understand
There's another
the
question.
Amazing Spider-Man, and I understand trying to change the titles up so that people don't get them confused. Because there is a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I mean, when you do, also, if you had called the remake, or not, because it's not a remake, if you had called the new Spider-Man movie, when they rebooted it, just Spider-Man, it would seem more like a remake.
Yeah.
Of the Donner, or not Donner, of the, the what's his
Raimi
face?
stuff.
The Raimi stuff, yeah.
They should totally call the new one
This is
Spectacular Spider-Man.
This is yeah. I'm hoping they go there. We gotta keep having new. It's gonna be interesting to see what Marvel decides to call that. But considering that they've been doing that with their other titles, where we've had the Incredible Hulk. It makes me think that they probably will go to either Spectacular or something like that.
I think they'll call it Spider-Man Have Some Faith. I think that's what
is that what
they're
they're going to call it? Yeah, I think it'd be really cool if they had a movie that was.
They're gonna go with Gwen Stacy Spider-Man.
I think it would be really cool if they had like a really, really super political heavy Spider-Man movie that was like all about some kind of like really like complicated mastermind villain plot from like Kingpin or somebody, and you called it Web of Spider-Man.
I like that idea.
That'd be cool, but then it would be. But then the problem with that is Spider-Man would have to be the master manipulator. So I don't know.
Oh, the tangled web we weave.
Here's my question to you, Vince. Maybe one of the things that's hung me up a little bit about the whole Batman Superman thing is the way colons work in titles. This is the opposite of my thing with Star Trek. I think it's funny that they have continued to try so hard to make Star Trek movies without any kind of a moniker after them, and I still don't understand the logic behind that. But this idea that like we have to separate the franchise by never having a colon and then a thing after that. We want it to, we want our titles to flow freely and just be a title like Star Trek, even though it had nothing to do with going anywhere, and then Star Trek Into Darkness, but like no colon, and everybody made fun of that. Is the problem that colons denote sequels? And that we're so used to them denoting sequels that it's really hard to do a first movie with a colon. Like, when does that work?
That's a terrific point.
Or does it work if we know it's a franchise and we're going to get more? Because you have Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and it's not just called Harry Potter, but there's no colon.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. You call it Harry Potter, who cares? Maybe it's about a pot maker. So
Yeah.
So,
but then, of course, the books were written that way too. If what we've gotten with a lot of these teen book series movies has been like the initial name of the first book in the franchise, and then after that you have the name of the next book, but we still have to put the franchise name in there so people know what the heck it is. Hunger Games is like that, where the book says Mockingjay, but the actual movie has to say Hunger Games in smaller print than Mockingjay in bigger print. But maybe that's my problem with the whole Batman versus Superman thing, is that it sounds like a sequel. Now you could complain, well, it is a sequel. It's a sequel to Man of Steel.
That's true.
Yeah, okay, but it's not Man of Steel.
Superman, Man of Steel.
It's not Man of Steel, Dawn of Justice, or even
Superman, Man of Steel, yeah.
Something.
Although I think they should have called it Superman, Man of Steel.
I think that would have been really cool, especially because the first movie barely had the word Superman in it, so it would have been really cool. Like, your progression is everybody's calling him that now, so we do that. But anyway, once again, I mean, that doesn't mean it's going to be bad. I just think it's just a really clunky title for me, and I don't know why it has to be like that.
I think Batman versus Superman is such a novel concept for the general public to see in live action that there's no reason you can't just call it Batman versus Superman and get people to go see it. But
and I still think the V without the S is fun, because I just wanted it to be a courtroom drama. Then you could do another one that's like The People versus Aquaman.
The Fish versus Aquaman.
The People v Aquaman. But
I don't talk to fish. I have a telepathic link with them. I control them.
And I eat fish.
It's delicious.
Before we move on to rants, any other types of titles you want to talk about?
No.
Oh, okay. If you were gonna sit down and write a short story tomorrow, how do you generally go about coming up with a title for a thing? Do you write a thing first and then come up with a title, or do you generate ideas out of a title idea? I have a tendency to do both.
Sometimes I'll get an idea from a title, but I usually try to keep it kind of a fluid idea so that maybe I have an idea for a title. And maybe it's even just a joke idea for a title. But eventually I come up with something that I feel works better. And I don't think I've ever just come up with an idea for a title and then named it that because I liked it so much. I might have had like an idea starter, kind of like Project Dolphin, you know what I mean? Like, that's the GameCube, or was it the Wii? I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know what Project Dolphin is.
Nintendo had a Project Dolphin. It was either the GameCube or the Wii.
Oh, that's right.
But, like, the title I think I'm most proud of is, I wrote a short story in school that was about, Cap and I were walking down Jayhawk Boulevard over there at the KU campus. We went to KU. And we're walking down Jayhawk Boulevard, and they had this billboard that was an anti-abortion thing, and it had a bunch of really nasty pictures of abortions on there.
That.
And I looked over at Cap, and I didn't say it verbatim, but I'm paraphrasing, so use your imagination. And I said, "It's what you want to see in the morning just before breakfast? A billboard full of disturbing crap." And so we're walking out. He did that. And then I'm walking by, and I think, you know what? I'm going to write a short story called Billboard of Disturbing Crap. And then I came up with an idea that was not related to the abortion billboard thing.
And you ended up calling it that.
And I ended up calling it Behind the Winning Philly because it had more to do with what was in the story.
But if you hadn't come up with that title, you wouldn't have had the thing in the first place.
Yeah, I still would have come up with something different, but I liked the idea of, if you see a title that says Billboard of Disturbing Crap, it's gonna be a comedy.
See, I don't think I'm real good at titles, and I think titles are really important. I like to try to make a title as much like a part of the piece as humanly possible, where if you didn't have the title, it wouldn't read the same. Like, I like a title, and I'm a stickler about episode titles and TV shows for this reason. I like a title that informs the narrative in some way. Where I think a title that is kind of like somehow apart from the piece, but gives you but creates like even almost another layer to it. When you think about it, is better than, and you can't always do that, but is better than a title that's like just a quote from the piece. Sometimes that gets cheesy, right? When you get 10 minutes into an episode of something and you know what the episode title is, and then somebody says it, and you're like, okay, there it is, I was waiting for it. But then you get stuff like Fight Club. I don't know what else you'd call Fight Club. It's Fight Club.
Yeah, it's about the Fight Club.
Yeah,
which is an evocative name as well.
Yeah, absolutely it is, and I almost went to that earlier. Something else I was gonna mention when we were talking about people's names is like the Bourne Identity versus if you just called it Jason Bourne.
Yeah. I think that makes more sense. Because it's a movie kind of about his identity. It's more a movie about running around. But
yeah, sure. Yeah. He's flying on rooftops. But
he can run, and he can drive, and he can do both.
Yeah, it would have been. Those movies would have been more fun if they were if they actually explored the identity issues more, because those were really, really interesting.
Yeah.
But I like those titles a lot. But they do tell you what they are, right? It is very much like okay, this is going to be like a big, exciting action movie.
I'm okay with using a character's name in a movie. I feel like we need a who, a what, and a where, or at least something evocative, something that grabs your interest. And if it's called the Bourne Identity, you go, well, Bourne has varying different levels to it, and the identity, you know, I think a lot of people struggle with identity issues.
Well, that's true, because that's a little double entendre too, right? It's like he's reborn, like he's born again. It's spelled differently, but that's okay because it's a last name, we know it, but it's still, you know,
kind of like John
think
Wick
about things on those levels
as a short fuse.
Again, I don't know if that was on purpose or anything, but that was just something I thought of when I watched it.
I think that makes sense that he has a short fuse later on in the movie, but early in the movie, I'm like, here's a guy that got out of the business and managed to keep his fuse under control for at least 5 years.
Well, yeah, that's true, but then, you know, like, I don't want to read too far into that title. Anyway, but what I was going to say is I have a tendency to initially write titles that are way too vague. My novel, The Girl with 7 First Names, first of all, that title I did not come up with. The girl that drew the book cover gave us an idea, and we took her idea. That was,
really?
Yeah. The girl he hired to do the book cover is the one that and I thanked her profusely for it too, because I was like I couldn't come up with anything, and that was great. Originally it was was called The Seven, and then later it was called Normal is a Four-Letter Word. I liked that title, but it's not descriptive at all. It also made a lot of people think that it had a lot of profanity in it, and it didn't, so that was a thing. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, we do a lot of things with numbers, and I was, and like, I think that, and back then I didn't have this, but like, the more I've, you know, kind of grown and developed as both a reviewer and a writer, I've decided that those kinds of titles just aren't descriptive enough. They don't tell you enough. Yeah. 9.
What is Ocean's 11 about? I mean,
at least you
is
have
there
the
multiple
word,
oceans?
At least you have the word ocean. You know what I mean? But you're right. It's not immediately evocative. It's like, what does that mean? The whole Bourne Identity thing is a little vague, but at least it gives you a thematic thing. What's ocean necessarily? But then, like, I'm just talking about titles that are a singular number, like 9, 7. You had 9 and, like, I think even I think you had in the same year you had a movie called 9 spelled out. You had another movie called 9 with the number.
Yeah,
a few years ago, and I saw the animated one and didn't like it at all. But so like, but then we can use numbers in really interesting ways, right? Like you know, you've got like, I think the number 23 is an okay title. Because, especially after you've seen it, because that's what it's about, you know. In the same way that Friday the 13th works, because it's about that superstition.
Oh, was there a superstition about 23?
Yeah, that was the whole idea, is that there's this number that's everywhere.
Oh, okay.
And, I think
in the movie,
I think that was actually a real life thing too, for some reason with that number, but maybe not. I don't remember.
I don't think I saw it.
But that was the whole idea. Is yeah, that was the Joel Schumacher movie that Jim Carrey was in.
Yeah, whenever I think of that, I always think of
It's not
Eternal
great.
Sunshine.
I love Jim Carrey in it, but it was pretty convoluted. The third act was kind of all over the place, but
you know, I kind of feel like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh boy, what a great, and that's a title. First of all, that movie is just stellar. It's just a really, really good movie. But secondly, that's a title where I want to see it just on the kind of what the kind of level.
You know, I kind of like long titles that give you a little bit more about the person. Like, I didn't see this movie, but The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, I think is, you know, it's alliterative, Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of interesting, because you know that there's something kind of old-timey about it, and you know that it's about a particular person, and because his name's alliterative, it might not be something that has to be super serious. Maybe it can be just a little...
It sounds
fanciful.
It sounds whimsical.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. I was like, fanciful? No. Fanciful? No. Yeah, whatever.
That's good too, but yeah. Well, do you want to go on a rant, or do you have any final thoughts?
I have no idea. We could probably keep talking about this for hours, because there's lots of titles.
It's a good topic, Vince. Well, good job. Well done. Any quick final thoughts? I don't know how you sum this up necessarily, but
I like a title. I think that the best titles, the ones that are going to...
I like to see... I don't want to go to a movie that's called Untitled. I kind of want to know what it's about.
I would totally see a movie called Untitled.
I would too.
But because there's a novelty of no title.
I wrote a short story. If we're talking about our own stuff, I wrote a short story back in high school called By Anonymous. I thought that was a great title.
That's a good idea. I like that.
I wrote it.
I changed my name to Anonymous.
Yeah.
My name is Anonymous.
For a minute there, I considered Captain Anonymous, but...
Hi, I'm Captain Obvious. Anywho, I guess my final thoughts are: I think the best titles have two of the three: a person, a place, and then an activity, or let's say a noun, a place, an activity. Something that gives you something to grab onto and gives you that mini movie in your head.
Yeah, something that is somehow descriptive enough. It doesn't have to be a synopsis of the thing. It doesn't have to read like. And I think maybe that's my complaint with the whole Batman vs Superman thing. Is I don't necessarily need a movie title to read like the pitch. You know the thing, but like Star Wars. Okay, that's a great title.
Yeah.
You know
where it is, and you know what's going on,
and that's what I love looking at Star Trek versus Star Wars, because they're both really descriptive about like what they are like in contrast to each other. Like Star Trek, we're going someplace. It's a trek. It's a journey. It's all about exploration. Star Wars is all about a conflict.
So Star Trek Into Darkness, since there's, like, you know, most of space is dark.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that technically be true of all Star Trek things? Star Trek Into Darkness?
The best... There is an episode of Voyager that would have been best served by that title,
The Ship Into Darkness,
which was which was an episode in which Voyager wound up in this blank black void with no stars at all.
Oh yeah,
and they couldn't, and they just kept traveling in it, and well, they weren't trapped. It was like they're going and going, and then just suddenly there's no more stars. It's like, well, when do we get stars back again? And if memory serves, and that episode was called Night, which is not an especially descriptive title. But and like a lot of Voyager episodes have that problem. In DS9 too. I was making fun of The Ship. Really, we made a Star Trek episode called The Ship. Okay,
is that DS9?
Yeah.
Okay. I always think it's Voyager because I think Voyager's ridiculous and Neelix isn't anyway.
Yeah, but TNG had a lot of those too. You know, there's
especially the early seasons.
There's an episode called well, actually, like first season had a lot of episode titles that were similar to TOS titles, and those were always really poetic. TOS gave us amusing titles like "For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky."
Oh, what was the one that I liked? A
Piece of the Action.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a good title. It's a hilarious episode too.
There's a lot of great titles. But anyway, well, let's go ahead and move on to rant, shall we? Vince, what is your rant for this week, sir?
So here's my rant.
Okay.
All right. Now I seem to have just crap. I don't order stuff ridiculous. I don't order stuff on eBay all of the time.
Is this another eBay rant?
This is another eBay rant. So I don't order stuff on eBay all the time. I just have ridiculously bad luck with it. So I collect Wolfman stuff. You can see through my eyes. I collect Wolfman stuff, okay? You know, the Wolfman, Lon Chaney Jr. And
does nothing for me.
Yeah, I know. I'm less blind than you are.
By a lot. In fact, that's almost like just looking out of my normal eyes, really. it like...
Well, you are looking out of your normal eyes.
Shut up, you. it like makes things maybe like 1% clearer, you know? But I still wouldn't be able to read anything from that distance, you know?
So,
you know,
I ordered this thing on
making
eBay.
Green beans 1% tastier. I still wouldn't want them.
Now, if you see something, if you look at the bottom of a thing, and it says on the bottom, porcelain, or ceramic, or polyresin, or resin, or something to this effect, you probably shouldn't ship it in an envelope, right?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Now, I wouldn't ship something that's plastic with movable joints.
Some people like to try to put everything they can in envelopes because they're super lazy.
And it just drives, like, here's the deal. If you buy one of those ship anything envelopes, it's going to cost less than $8, right? So, you know, maybe $5, sure. So
Depends on what you're shipping, but yeah.
So this guy charges me more than he paid to ship it, and then he puts 2 polyresin busts, a Wolfman bust and a Dracula bust.
In an envelope?
In an envelope. He puts it in one of those bubble wrap envelopes, and he doesn't put any kind of spacer inside of it to keep things from just smashing it. So when I get it, there's chips in the paint of the Dracula bust, which, you know what? Ultimately, I didn't care. I already have that one. I found it for $5 at a vintage stock. Moving on. Wolfman, the reason I bought it, or the one that I bought it for, the Wolfman was decapitated. Its head was completely broken off.
Of course it was.
And not only that, but it wasn't like broken off with an even seam. It was in an envelope shipped. Basically, somebody just said, here, try not to break these. Send them to this address. So it was broken beyond repair. You couldn't just glue the head down because there are pieces. It looked he had a discernible line around his neck.
That's rough.
And so I look into this thing now. Now eBay generally has your back. So I'm getting my money back. I will. I'm shitting them back. I'm shipping them back to him. And,
Vince wants revenge. He's going to do that too.
And here's how I shipped them. I found a box. I wrapped up the Dracula.
I would have put it in an envelope.
I thought about just taping the envelope shut and sending it back. But So here's what I did.
What I would have
put it in a
done is
box.
I would have taken a picture of what they look like when you got them, and then I would have put them back in the bag and sent them to him, and then put a note in there that says, "How much is this How much worse is this than these Polaroids?" that's what I would have said. Yeah, I said Polaroid because it sounds fun. Nobody uses those anymore, but it sounds funny. I know he would have printed them off his computer. It's 2015. I hate present day. I can't be as funny.
I did take a picture, and
but it wasn't a Polaroid.
Now here's the deal. I sent this guy. I sent him a message beforehand because he never.
How many of these people don't even know what a Polaroid is?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
How do you roll down your window? But yeah. Why do you call it taping something?
We've gotten so get off my lawn. Oh man, that's great.
So I shipped them back in a box. In fact, I had a box that was perfectly sized, okay? It was about this big. Now, had they both been intact, it would not have been sized big enough. So I put the Dracula in slantwise. So here's the box. He's going slantwise, okay? And then I put the Wolfman bust shoulders down because there's no head and base up. Perfectly fits in. And then, so I wrapped the Wolfman body-ish. I wrapped the Dracula, I put that in there, and then I wrapped the head separately and I put it in. Trying to prove a point there.
Yeah.
And then I ship it in the box, and luckily he's going to pay for the shipping because you know what? You sent me something broken. Well, no, you didn't send me something broken. You sent me something incompetently. That's what bothered me. I'm like, how dumb do you have to be to put a breakable thing? Now, I get if you're just going to put it like a DVD in an envelope. I get it. You know what?
But envelopes are for flat things.
Yes, envelopes are for things that are not easily busted.
Importantly, may I contrast this with something that somebody shipped me last week that was incredibly well packed? Just make you feel bad about it. I got an envelope that was a flat thing. I've been building my tick collection. I've been getting a lot of cool tick stuff, and one of the things that I got was this old pamphlet that was sent to retailers about all of the different tick toys, and it's this really rare thing that had some pictures of toys that they never made. So I really wanted it, and it was in perfect condition. I don't know why somebody kept this in nice shape, but it was perfect. And she shipped it, and she sent me a message the morning she shipped it and said, "You're going to get it today. Here's how to open it to not mess it up." She wanted to make sure I didn't mess it up because she said that she had shipped something a couple weeks earlier with a whole bunch of like solid cardboard to make sure that it didn't bend, and it still got there all kinds of screwed up. Like, no matter how like package stuff really well, you will still sometimes get things botched a little bit or a lot just because the post office doesn't always handle things with kid gloves. They're not always careful. It doesn't matter how many times you write things on it. Sometimes people just aren't careful. So it gets to me, and she is actually like sandwiched between a layer of cardboard and another layer of cardboard, a plastic hanger, just to make sure it didn't bend. I mean, it was like the best flat package job I've ever seen.
That's smart.
Yeah, it was great.
So,
but I'm sorry. The only reason I mentioned that is to say envelopes are for flat things.
Yeah, which I get it. I once had a person send in an envelope, and I couldn't believe they did this. I ordered the werewolf figure from the real Ghostbusters line back in the '80s. They sent that in an envelope, and not like any envelope. It was a sized perfectly to this figure envelope, and I couldn't believe it wasn't broken and still worked.
Yeah, wow.
It was like this, like all of its end range, it was stuck in and was shipped that way, and I went, oh my god.
I mean,
I don't know if I should give him positive marks, but he did arrive and working and not broken.
Yeah, but not for lack of trying.
Yeah.
If folks that are watching, if you've ever gotten a package from me, because of course I ship a lot and I give things away and stuff, and I got a couple packages that need to be shipped right now. They're coming. I ship in envelopes a lot, but I'm shipping flat stuff, and I'm also shipping things that are like stacks of comics in bags and boards.
Yeah. And that's different. It has reinforcement in them.
Yeah, I always wrap that in a bubble wrap, and then I don't think you need a whole lot of packaging for that. They tend to arrive okay, unless you only have like 1 or 2 comics. And then you want some thick cardboard. I try not to ship like 1 or 2 comics without something else to reinforce it a little bit. But if it's like a stack of 10, that's not gonna move.
Yeah. You know, I put a DVD in an envelope, a bubbly envelope, and I wrapped it in a piece of cardboard and then put it in the bubbly envelope.
Yeah.
How hard is this? Use your dang head.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, why don't people who sell things care more about it arriving there intact?
It's going to cost you money.
Because if you sold it to them and it gets there and it's broken, then you didn't sell anything, and now you're eating money.
Yeah, you're going to pay for it shipping back because eBay's going to make you do it.
Yeah.
Now, it's different if they want to return the item, then the buyer pays for the shipping back.
Yeah.
But if
you ruined it.
If it's broken because of your actions, then you pay for it.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, at least that's what it is in this instance.
Yeah, wow. Well, no, that was a great rant, Vince.
So, yeah.
I've been making fun of you for a lot of buying things on the internet rants, but that's a great rant.
Use your heads.
Yeah.
Ship stuff in a way that makes sense. Anyway,
and if you have more than one head, use both of your heads, okay? Because I mean, if God gave you two, use them both. You know, that's
true for most men.
Yeah, most men. Wow. Anyway, all right.
There's blue humor for you. Anyway, you brought up the tick. Speaking of blue, you brought up the tick. So
fast forward. Anyway, earlier to now. Go ahead, segue into my rant that I already know I'm going to make. So,
here we go. Cap's rant for the day.
Well, so earlier I mentioned buying tick stuff. I've been building my tick collection. I'm trying to make the most fantabulous tick collection of all time, and I'm trying to get the definitive tick collections. I'm trying to buy everything that ever existed for the tick.
These last few weeks have been called the tickening.
It's there's been a lot, and you're going to hear me talking about this quite a bit on the channel some, just because I've been amassing all this stuff, and I think it's cool, and hopefully you do too. But you know, it's my show, so I'll say whatever I want to. And anyway, what I got a couple weeks ago, and I've mentioned this before, and I'll show this when eventually, but I got a couple of big boxes. A guy sold his entire tick collection, and he had all of the tick toys from the '90s, from the mid-'90s, from the cartoon show, completely in perfect shape, still in package, and a lot of really rare stuff. And he had some of the Canadian figures, some of the stuff that was only printed in Canada, only made in Canada.
I do that all the time.
Canada.
And they should either be called Canadians, or it should be called Canadia.
Anyway, so there was one figure in particular that was only made there, and then there's some packaging that's Canadian packaging, so it's got French Canadian text on it. It's kind of cool that I've got some of that stuff now. And anyway, I get all these figures, and I'm looking through them, and I knew most of what they made, but I had never looked at it all together like that. And there were some figures that I didn't realize had never been made, and I just didn't know, because I hadn't really researched it that hard. And there were certain figures that I thought were really odd that they made versus figures that they didn't, and I guess my rant is mostly just in toy lines where they go for the oddball stuff first, and then there's not enough interest to keep waves going, so characters that you really want to see never get made. And this happened with the Tick, and I think it still happens some. I'm still waiting for a normal 6-inch Robin for Batman 66. Where is that? We still don't have that. It's really weird. They just made a Batgirl. They still don't have a Robin, as far as I know.
At least a Robin that can fit into the Batmobile.
But that's what I'm saying, a normal 6-inch Robin. Because they made one that was specifically for the climbing up the wall diorama, but it kind of doesn't count because the cape is different. But anyway, so it doesn't fit the Batmobile. So and also you shouldn't have to buy the whole diorama just to get a Robin figure, because there's a Batman. You know what I mean?
There's a couple Batman.
There's a couple Batman, yeah. Oh, and they just put out the Joker figure with the skate shorts. Just the Batman one, yeah, that's cool. Funny. I'm gonna get that eventually, and it looks like eventually they might make. I hope those are still selling well. It looks like eventually they might make some of the villains too, some of the other villains, because I really want to King Tot and Egghead and some of those guys. And I think a Mad Hatter figure could be really cool, especially if they make a hat where the hat actually pops up and it's got the eyes that shoot the. It wouldn't actually shoot the beam out, but it'd just be really cool if they had that. But anyway, so with the Tick, they make a Dean figure. Dean was a henchman of Chairface Chippendale that was in one episode for he was in a couple episodes, but each time it was like 10 or 15 seconds. They made several for all these different little lines they did. They made several Dynamoles. To this day, I don't know who that is. I think he might have been in some comics, and I just don't remember. He might have shown up like really briefly in a cartoon episode, and I'm not remembering it. Dynamo's not a major villain, and not a villain I even remember. You could have made the Forehead before Dynamo. I mean, there's a lot of like really small time little things that you totally could. You could have made Doorman before Dynamo. Like it's really weird. They made the 6-inch Dynamo. They made the wacky wind-up Dynamo that like is on wheels. They made one of the figures that has like the little bases. They made Dynamo. I can tell you what they were doing. They did a first wave. And they went, we're going to make more of these, so we're going to save some of the major characters so that we can make sure and sell a certain number of units. That's how a lot of these things go, right? So, second wave, they put out a couple more kind of major characters that weren't in the first wave, and I can't remember exactly who was in what. Like, Super Urchin is somewhere, and Deflator Mouse is in one of them over the other one. I don't remember, American Made. But then, and I'm glad we got those, but they made a second wave. We never got a third one. So we never got a Chairface Chippendale. So there is a 6-inch, now there's Chairface Chippendale for like the tiny figures, but we never got a 6-inch Chairface. Imagine a Batman line that, imagine there was one Batman line ever, and you never got a Joker. I mean, it's like that, because Chairface is...
Well, Batman Begins.
Because Chairface is but I'm talking like an action figure line for like this character, and it's his arch nemesis, and you never see it ever. Like that's so weird in my brain. Mostly just because of all the other figures we got, you know. And like there's a lot of really cool, fun Tick figures. I'm sorry, Tick characters that would have made great action figures. We never got a Terror. That's kind of crazy, especially because we got Mad Eating Cow, so they're already going to characters from that episode. And I don't know about anybody else, but I sure think we should have had a 6-inch fake Joseph Stalin, but that, you know, that's just me. We didn't get Toon Lan out of this earth. That would have been a really interesting character. We got Skippy the Robot Dog, but we didn't get Brainchild, who built Skippy the Robot Dog. Okay, that's odd, so I don't know.
That seems like a 2-pack.
Just a lot, yeah. It does sound like a 2-pack, especially because Brainchild would have been kind of a small figure because he's a little kid.
You wouldn't sell the ventriloquist separately from from Scarface.
That's a great point you're making.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of sad some of the stuff we didn't get, and part of the reason that I wish we'd gotten more stuff is because the figures are great. I mean, like they
are surprisingly nice.
They were made by Bandai, and that of course is who makes the Power Rangers figures, and Power Rangers of course is basically a commercial every week for toys, and the toys are great. So it's really cool that Bandai got the Tick, and I just wish we got more figures. And I wish we got more play sets, because there were a couple they were going to make that would have been really cool. But anyway, I'll talk more about that stuff when I start showing off some of the Tick stuff. But that's my rant for today. That's what's on my mind. That's what I'm doing. And Vince is playing with his eyebrows. Anyway, thanks for watching. Sure appreciate it. We'll see you again next week. We'd like to know what you think about titles of movies and et cetera, et cetera. Titles of things that are stories. And leave your comments. Let us know what you thought about all the stuff we were talking about. And also, if there's something you'd like us to talk about in a future video, leave that in the comments as well. Thanks for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, reminding you to support your local comic book store.